I'm Rachel, here with Ari, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. This week, we're on episode 272, and we're asking, how do you create an author media kit? Before we start, if you enjoy the show, consider checking out our coffee page. You can follow the page for free as we have plenty of goodies for all. And if you're feeling generous, a one-off donation will get you access to more treats, or you can become a Merry Writer for just $2 a month. And for that, you would get access to all the items in our shop, including exclusive goodies, as well as access to monthly bonuses, all while helping to support our podcast. But if that's not your style and you still enjoy the show, then please subscribe wherever you're listening if you're not already, and consider dropping us a like if you're watching on YouTube. So, the reason I wanted to talk about author media kits is because I really need to make one for my own website, and I have not. And I thought this would give me the push to actually create it, and I have not. Hopefully, by the time this episode releases, I will have it created on my website, but I don't know, we'll see. So, what is a media kit versus a press kit? A media kit is a more modern term, and it caters to online audiences such as, bloggers, podcasters, etc. And a press kit is more so for the press, such as journalists, the news, what have you. As far as I can tell, both terms are used interchangeably. I don't think many people create two separate kits for specific audiences, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know. All the info is probably in one kit, and you can tweak it as needed depending on who you're sending it to. And you should. You should always double check your media kit, your resume, whatever, depending on who you're sending it to or, what information they need. Now, media kits or press kits should not be confused with press releases. In writer terms, the media kit is about you as the author, and the press release is about one of your publications, typically your latest release. But we're not going to talk about press releases today. We will talk about it in a future episode, I think for 278.
I think it's interesting that we have the media kit and the press kit. And as you said, the press kit it's always been called press kit because it's for journalists and everything. So I think more people lean towards media kit because nowadays it's not as common to reach out to journalists, is it? It's like, we have everything online. It's bloggers and podcasters and things like that, and influencers. But I think if you are doing it, I think there should be a thought about press kits because we're not saying you have to go and reach out to, the New York Times, but there's something to be said about reaching out to local newspapers in your area, like the small rag. And especially if you're a new writer, because sometimes they're looking for small personal pieces or local news like that. And so even if you're not a big writer, even if it's just your debut, and even if you're self-published, it's something to think about. So even if you are thinking, media kit rather than press kit, maybe still kind of think about aiming it a little bit more towards journalism as well, because you never know, you might get put into your local paper or on the local radio station. That's another one that can use it. And hey, the better you get out there, the more people hear your name, the more likely you are to sell. So just something to think about. I know we all sort of shy away from like, oh no, I could never go in the newspaper. We're not talking the big ones. We're not talking you have to be in anything that's huge. But there are these local newspapers that they might just go, hey, a new writer in our area, yeah.
No, I mean, that's so true. Marketing doesn't have to be limited to just digital. I know these days everything is online and digital. But yeah, you got to expand your horizons a little bit. And I mean, yeah, you can argue that, nobody reads newspapers anymore. But believe it or not, there are still a good amount of people that buy and read newspapers. So you should definitely, shoot your shot and get in there. And who knows, if you go into your local newspaper and stuff, maybe it's I don't know how this works. But maybe that can kind of be a leg up to get your book in your local library or something. Again, I'm not really sure how it works to get self-published books in your library, but maybe. I mean, it doesn't hurt.
I have to say, I agree that there's not as many people read newspapers as it used to be. But I'll be honest, we get like a local newspaper, like a free one, like a little small, of really close, specific news to like our town. And I read it every time for random things. And it could be like, oh, the sheep got out, or I live in a town with a lot of fields, a lot of farms, things like that. But I'll be honest, I read it all the time. The fact it's still being pushed through the door and it hasn't been like everyone throws it away and that, it suggests that people do read it. So yeah, I think even actually aiming for the smaller newspapers and things is a good idea. And also newsletters for things like the library, the community center, things like that, they'd also find it useful. That just dropped into my head when you mentioned library. So
No, that's all good points. And this is why we say that, and I know the terms media kit and press kit are technically two different things, but this is why we say that even if you just have the one media kit, you need to tailor it and like you need to make sure that it's updated depending on where you're sending it, because you're not going to send the same information to a blogger as you would to a newspaper. So just keep that in mind. Always check on it, always keep it updated. And always know who you're sending it to so you give them the correct information. That's just always a given. Now, why are we talking about this? Why should authors have a media kit? Marketing, duh. We kind of just went into a whole spiel about it. All the information you'll need to share with the people who are interviewing you or promoting your books in any way, everything that they need to know should be in your media kit. And all they need to know about the specific book you're promoting will be in the book's press release. Now, having a media kit is also a great reference point for yourself. If you need to update your bio on your social media pages, just go onto your media kit and copy and paste it from there. So this is why your media kit should always be the first thing that gets updated, and it should be updated consistently so it is a reference point for you. I'll stop rambling now. So let's talk about what you should include in your author media kit. And this is in no particular order. You can configure your media kit however you want. But first, I will talk about your author bio. That's a given. Have an author bio, and you should have different versions of your author bio. You should have a short bio and a long bio. The reason for that is depending on who's interviewing you or where your article is going, or whoever's promoting you, they will have different requirements. And sometimes they'll want you to do a bio that's like no more than 100 words. Other times they'll have more room. Basically, your short bio will be like a byline, and your longer bio will just be more information about you for the interviewer to get to know you better.
yeah, I've seen a few press kits where they've had like a really short bio and nothing else, and it's like, yeah, certain places they want a chunkier bio. So like your short bio should be around 100, 200 words, nice and concise. There's been a lot of debate on whether it should be in first person, like, I am a fantasy author, blah blah blah, or whether it should be in third person. I think that's a personal preference. Some places might specify, but I think it's a personal preference. And it's one of those things where third person comes across a little bit more professional. If you read like bios of some of the big authors, it's usually in third person. However, it's more personable when it's in first person. So there's no hard and fast rules. I think sometimes with things like that, you can get in your own head, because I have done that where it's like, oh my God, should it be this or this? Should it be this or this? And then you end up doing nothing. So just I think that the main thing is whatever it is, stick to it. Don't have your short one in first person and your long one in third, something like that. Don't mix and match.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate just a little bit here. And I think for your media kit, your bio should be in third person, because whoever it's for, whoever's promoting your work is probably going to copy and paste that. If you were on a podcast or you were doing writing a guest article and you got to add your bio at the end of the article or something, absolutely, you're the one speaking. You're the one writing it, so you can use first person. But I feel like it would look kind of odd if somebody did a book review and then they copied and pasted your bio and it's in first person. It would kind of look a little jarring, if that makes any sense. So I do agree with Ari that it's definitely your personal preference, but when you're sending it to people to use as like a byline, I think it should be in third person.
No, no, I get that. I'll be honest, most of mine would be in third person, and if you put it at the back of the book, I always think third person reads better. But hey, there's people out there now, it's everything's first person, you just don't know. But yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, rules are meant to be broken. Do whatever you feel is best for you and your writing voice. Go for it. But I mean, the whole point is just to have a little more variety about who you are. Like on my website, it's not on my media kit because that hasn't been created yet. But on my website, on the front page, I have a short bio, and then there's a button to learn more about me. And if you click that, it goes to my about page, and I have a much longer bio that goes more into my writing background and things like that. So you want to give them as much information as they need without bombarding them. And then they can just pick and choose what they want to put on and how they want to promote you. But moving on, another thing you should include in your author media kit is a handful of approved author photos. And you should have a nice mix of professional headshots and personality shots because, you might as well have fun with it. And you'll want to offer different size options, such as small, medium, large, and different layouts like portrait, landscape, or square, because some might use your picture as like a horizontal banner, others might put it in a vertical Pinterest pin, some might put it on their Instagram, which is square, obviously. Although I think they recently changed that, so because Instagram's a pain in the butt, but I digress. Overall, just have a couple of approved photos so that they're not, finding you on your personal social media and they're copying and pasting like a random picture of you at somebody's birthday party. Like you want to have your professional images that you chose and probably paid for if you get a professional photographer. You want to, have a nice clean author look. It should go along with your brand so that when people see you, they'll know you're talking about your writing in your books.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if you can get some done professionally, that's not a bad idea. But obviously now with the way cameras and phones are, you can take some of your own. I think you just need to think about it. Avoid cluttered areas. So standing in front of a bookcase might look good on some photos, but for headshots and things, it can look a little noisy. You want to make sure that there's a large space around you because you don't know how they're going to have to crop it. And so you don't want the camera focusing too closely on your face, your shoulders, and everything. You need a little bit of distance so that if they need to crop it, if they need to fit it, you're not going to have suddenly like, giant face staring really close, everything. Try and have natural light. Do not go out on a bright sunny day. That is not good natural light. You want not sunny days, not a gloomy day, but you want non like indirect sun next to a window, like diffused light. That's kind of what you need. And you don't need all the fancy equipment. Literally a piece of like white muslin over the window, away from direct light. Nice picture, easy, simple backgrounds, things like that. And if you are doing it yourself, remember high resolution photos. You do not want something that's going to pixelate. Definitely not. And also, if you are taking author photos, you might want to update them. So, like if you took them when you were in your 20s and now you're in your 50s, take some new photos. You need to look at least mostly like yourself. I say that as someone whose photos still look a lot younger than they are, and they don't. I don't even wear glasses in those photos, and I've been wearing glasses for like almost 10 years. So yeah, I need to update my own photos, which I don't like doing. I'm not a big fan of photos and everything, but yeah, look, something I have to add to my list. Great.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to bring it up for you. But I mean, I agree with everything Ari said. Make sure you're using high resolution and do the research. If you're doing your own photos, go onto Google and go onto some photography websites and do some research on how to take, you know, high quality selfies, if you will. Or, you know what? Ask a friend. That's what I did. I asked my cousins to take pictures for me. And so some of my headshots were with my phone and others were with my camera. And I think they all came out great. But if you have a tripod and stuff, you probably can do it yourself. But if you can ask for help from a friend or family member, that's always a good idea too. Moving on. If you want, I have seen some people do this, and I don't know if it's necessarily needed, but I guess if you want to add it, you can add your author brand story to your author media kit. An author brand story is different from your author bio. It is basically the story of how you became a writer, why you started writing, and why you write in, like, the type of themes and genres that you actually write in. So it's just like it's a more in-depth story about you as a person, you as a writer, but it's not necessarily your bio. It's just something like another little tidbit about yourself that's kind of like a formal fun fact, if that makes any sense.
I have to admit, I've not seen that, but I would probably enjoy reading that. So I'm all for anything like that. Yeah.
I think it's a great thing to have, especially if you're being interviewed, because then it will help whoever's interviewing you to choose questions that are more catered to you as a writer and as a person, which is something else that you should add to your media kit is suggested interview topics. And this can be catered to the genre that you write in or your current work in progresses or just anything about you as an author. And in addition, you can add speaking topics. That can be like for interview or also like just general appearances, like if you ever go on a panel or something, or if you're not being interviewed, but you're talking about writing or, your expertise in whatever, like if you write nonfiction, for example, you can have speaking topics about that specific thing, but it's not necessarily about your book. I am describing all of this. I'm explaining all of this in such a weird way, and I apologize. It's been a long week.
I like that. I've seen media kits where I think we were given one when somebody came on the podcast, and they had a list of like questions and topics and things. And I think can be quite helpful. Firstly, for the person who is hopefully interviewing you, but also you can be more specific then. So they might be thinking, yeah, I can give some general questions, which obviously there's nothing wrong with that. General questions are always good. But like you might be really great at world building. So you can make that a specific comment that they might not have thought. Because you've got to remember, especially if we're talking about journalists or radio hosts or even some podcasters, it doesn't mean they've read your book. A lot of people who might interview you, bloggers, podcasters, it doesn't mean they've read your book. It just might mean that they like what they see, they've heard about you, maybe they've read snippets of your book and they're interested in how you discuss it. Maybe other people have recommended it, but they haven't got around to it. So they might not know that you're a really good world builder or that you talk about difficult topics or things like that. So by putting those sorts of questions in that you think, well, I'd be really good at telling people about this, it gives them an idea of something they can ask without having to read your novel first. Don't worry, it'd be lovely if they read your novel. It's just not always acceptable and understandable that that's going to happen. So yeah, I actually like the idea of that, and you don't have to go crazy. I mean, like you're talking like what 7 to 10 sample questions you can give, 4 or 5 topic ideas you can give. You don't want to give pages and pages and pages because I guarantee no one's going to read all that. So, but yeah, so it's an idea, especially if you want to think about things that are specific to your books and your strengths that you might have that might just separate you out from other writers. Maybe if other writers are like, oh, I write kids' books, but like you write historical fiction and you can talk about the research you do because you write historical fiction and sort of lead it in that direction. So you think a little bit more outside the box in that, and I think it gives you a bit more oomph, if that makes sense.
No, it does, because you have to keep in mind that a lot of times there are sometimes that people aren't reaching out to interview you. A lot of times you're the one reaching out to podcasters and bloggers to interview you. So you have to be under the impression that they have no idea who you are. So if you add these questions, then it's less pressure for them and it's easier for them to agree to interview you because it's kind of less work for them in a way. Now, I'm not saying that I mean, as podcasters ourselves, when we have guests on the show, we definitely look at their websites and we look them up and we see what stuff that they write and we kind of, we want to get to know them before we start the interview. We don't want to go in blind, and I think everybody should do that. But depending on who you're asking and how big they are, they might not have the time, and it's just easy. They can say, "Oh, here's a mystery author, and they also love cats, and they write some nonfiction on the side, and they have a memoir coming out, and and they can just kind of get a basic idea with those suggested questions and topics." So once you get those interviews and you write those guest posts and stuff, you can also add an appearances section of your media kit. That's basically the as featured on section. And you can list podcasts that you've been on. You can list a link to articles that you've written for other websites. You can, post a picture of that newspaper clipping that was, in the newspaper about you. Wherever you've been, all the things that you've done, be proud of it and list it in your media kit. And it also, the reason people have that section on their media kit is for credibility. and people can say, oh wow, they're really good at what they do, they're a good speaker, I would love to interview this person. And it's just, it'll all come full circle because you reach out to so many people to interview you, and then other people will come across your media kit and say, oh wow, they're really busy and they do a lot, like I want that type of person, that would be really good for my audience to hear about.
And we're not just saying that because if you are featured on us, we'd like you to mention the podcast too. That way, more people will see and go, "Oh, that sounds like an interesting podcast," and we'll get more guests. We're not just saying it that, but we are saying also that.
I mean, yeah, we are still a little itty bitty baby podcast that's, 5 years old now, but yeah, if you've ever been on the show, please do share it on your website.
Hey, we're
That
still
would be
here,
swell.
5 years,
I
and we're
know,
still here.
we
So
are.
many people started podcasts in the pandemic and then vanished. We are still standing.
Yep. Because we're stubborn. Not because we're good, but because we're stubborn.
When the ideas run out, then we'll stop. But unfortunately, they keep
Yeah.
coming. We keep having ideas to write. So,
No,
right. So,
literally,
no
while we
problem.
were in this conversation, I wrote in the Zoom chat to Ari an episode idea. They just keep coming. So either you're welcome or I'm sorry. I don't know. But anyway, something else you can add to your media kit is obviously a list of your books and series info. And again, the press release is more specific details about your latest release or your debut or whatever book you want to feature. But it's still good to have in your media kit, like, the credibility of all the work that you've done. If you have 20 books published, yeah, list those books. Again, you don't want it to be too long, so don't, go into detail about every single one of them. But, you can highlight or showcase your latest released or your most popular book, so you can add a little more detail about that. But then everything else you can just, you can list, and I'll let Ari explain the rest for that.
Yeah, I have to admit, I remember doing blog interviews, and I asked for some information from a book author, like what other author, from an author, and they sent me like 50 pages of a media kit because they were a very prolific book writer and they had a lot. So they had pages and pages of each book with, a cover and the blurb and some images for the book. And it's like, that's a little too much. You do want to mention your books. If you've got a specific book or series that does really well, that's like your like main one, definitely showcase that. You can, there's nothing saying you can't add like a second document that's all your other books. So your media kit, if you have it in one document, you can have maybe a few books in that. And then if you have a lot written, add them to a secondary, just more catalog, the back catalog books. Because it's now a lot more for digital people, like bloggers and everything, and a lot of them like to include certain information, it can be helpful to give information such as page count, the genre that you're under, the main category, maybe the subcategory, ISBN number, the available format. So are you just ebooks? Are you ebooks and audiobooks and paperback and hardback? Are you just hardback? You'll be surprised what people like to know. So that sort of information, and it literally just has to be like bullet point under the image and the blurb, just the bullet point. If it's on fan, if it's available at certain retailers, now that can be really useful if you have one of those. Is it like a book to links, the way you can list lots of different retailers? I think it's a yes, that's it. That can be quite useful. And if you have reviews, good reviews. And again, don't go crazy. If you've got 50 brilliant reviews, just pick like 2 or 3 or 4 of the best ones, the shorter ones, and you can have some like excerpts of reviews. Now the book part can be put on a separate sheet, almost like a sell sheet. That's not a problem. But again, if you have 20 plus books, don't put them all on one document. It's a bit too much. Separate them out into back catalogue and then the main ones. Because no one's reading that. I tell you, no one is reading that. And especially if you've got more information to come at the end after all the book, because people aren't going to want to scroll that far. I say that with massive amounts of experience of people sending me things like that. It's like, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you want to keep it short and sweet. Obviously, you want to be able to give them as much information as possible, but there will be time for you to actually talk to them. The media kit is just like a first impression kind of thing, and say, "Look at all this stuff I did. Don't you want to have me on your show?" Yeah? Okay, great. And then you have a discussion and you build a relationship and, whatnot. So definitely agree with Ari on all of that stuff. Short and sweet is best. And I like the bullet points too, because people don't read big blocks of text. I mean, unless it's, you can share your book blurb and things like that, but people aren't gonna, people skim at best. It's just the way things are. But finally, after, you have all of that stuff, I mean, you could put this at the top, you could put it at the end, whatever. You definitely want to have your contact info. This might be, kind of a given, but gotta say it anyway. Your contact info should include your full name or your pen name, whichever you prefer, how you want to be addressed. It could be initials, your full first name, pronunciation guide if you feel that's needed. Have the best email address for people to get in contact with you. Make sure you have your website link. Even if the media kit is on your website, still include your website and the link and social media. And like if you have a link tree or something, include that, but include links to the social media that you're on the most or, whatever. And if you're represented by an agent, include that as well, because again, that's more credibility. And sometimes agents or book publicists will take care of certain things for you. So you can say, oh, if you want, for this inquiry, reach out to my agent or whatever. Or you could just say, I'm represented by this person. Hooray, I made it as a writer.
Do we think we should have that on the actual media kit? Hooray, I made it as a writer. Because honestly, I think that's quite fun.
I mean, I think that would add a little more flair and personality to your media kit, so why not?
We're just going to cover about putting it all together in a minute. I just want to make a point of that, and I'm just shoving it in here because this is what I do. Um, think about the presentation. This is not just you dumping all the information for people to find. It should still be given good formatting, good thought of how it's written, spell checked. It should have, think about the font you're using. It should be one, preferably a serif that's easier to read. Does it need to be like single spaced or a little like what 1.5, anything like that? Headers, anything that makes it easier for people to find everything. So if you've got like several pages, maybe put page breaks in to break it down. Yeah, you do need to think like that. It should not just be here's all my information in a big mess. It should be professional because it's part of your professional branding. Um, yeah, please do that. It actually hurts my soul when I see ones where it's just like, did you just scribble this down with crayon? Just seriously.
So I've seen a lot of people put their media kits together in different ways, but they're always on their website. Or sometimes there's a link in their email signature to their media kit, but it's usually always something on their website. Now, there are different ways that you can compile all of this information into your media kit. First, you can have a Google Drive and you can just share that with anybody who has the link. And you can have separate folders set up and you can do, here's all the approved photos. They can click on that and download whatever images they want. Or you can have the different folders for your different books and series, however you want to do it. Personally, I don't really like it on a Google Drive. I think it doesn't look nice. I would rather have the media kit all in like one thing so you're not clicking so many things at once. But that's just my personal opinion. It's totally okay to have it all in a Google Drive. I just don't like the look of it for me. You could also create it as a landing page on your website, and that can be a subpage of the About the Author page, and it can be there all the time for everyone to see whenever they want, and they can have access to it whenever they want. Or it can also be a private page, and so you won't be able to get to it from the main menu on your website, but you can send the link to whoever needs to see it. So they won't be able to access it themselves unless you send them the link. Finally, you could also compile all of this information in a PDF, but again, you want to keep it short and sweet, so try to make it no more than 3 pages. And I know that's really difficult to do. You probably get away with with 4 pages, maybe even five, but people aren't going to keep scrolling so long. I think people are more likely to scroll on a landing page on a website than they are a PDF or Word document or anything like that. I don't know why. I think that's just the way people's brains are. If they have everything front and center and they just, when you're on a website, it's just natural to continually scroll. But a PDF, yeah, I don't know. Do whatever works best for you, however you want to compile it. There's no real right or wrong way to do it, but just make sure that it looks nice.
Yeah, I'd actually recommend both. I would recommend putting it on its own page on the website and having a PDF attachment at the bottom of it, because some people like the PDF, especially if they're forwarding it to someone else. You know, you might have an assistant who's sending it to a journalist or something, or it's someone who's just on there, and it's easier on a website because you can just copy and paste the text you need, whereas it's not always easy to do that on PDFs if it's just a readable. But yeah, there's nothing saying you can't put everything on the top, on the page, and then at the bottom just have, here's a PDF version if you want it. And if you aren't having it hidden away, definitely obviously have it on your website. Everything should be on your website. I don't know how many times we have to talk about how important websites are. So if you haven't got a website, get a website and then put everything on it. Seriously. If you have a link tree, you can always stick it at the bottom of the link tree, just a link directly to that, for the press, for media, whatever. And I'm just going to remind everyone again for the millionth time, keep it updated. It should be really important to keep it updated. Things change, your book catalog changes, release dates change, things about your bio. You want to say happily married if you're no longer married. You might not want to see that on someone's interview where they're like, oh, this person's happily married. It's like, oh, that was ended in a really bitter divorce. So, bitterly divorced. Change it to that, whatever you want. But yeah, keep it updated. In fact, that's another thing. On your website, keep things updated. It's really annoying when you go on someone's website and it's like, coming soon, 2022. And it's like, did it come out? Have you not written anything since? No judgment, especially not from me, good God. But yeah, if you're putting things like release dates and information, keep it updated. Even just put it in your diary once a month, just do a quick glance at everything and sort it out, because that does not look professional.
No, I agree with all of that. You definitely do want to keep it updated. And as I said earlier, it should be the first thing that you update. If you update your bio or you update your headshot, you should go to your media kit right away and update it. And if you don't have time to update it everywhere else, that's fine. Just do your media kit. And then when you have more time, then you can copy and paste it from your media kit onto your social media and, wherever else you need to do it. So that was a bit of a interesting explanation from me. I wrote notes, but they were like bullet notes, so half of that was ad-libbed. But I hope you guys got something out of it. If you don't have a media kit on your website and you have books out and you want to, market and promote yourself, I highly suggest creating a media kit for yourself. If anything, that might motivate you to, get your name out there a little more. I don't know how to end this, so I'm just gonna end it. Oh, well, wait, actually, before I do end it, little side quest here. Before we leave, Ari and I have decided to run a few silly challenges for ourselves, and the first one that we're going to do is we'll be writing in Comic Sans for at least a week, and we'll see how that goes. We heard that writing in Comic Sans can kind of boost your productivity when writing your novels. So we'll see if it works or not. It's just going to be a fun little experiment, and we'll be talking about our findings in next week's episode. If you want to join in and write in Comic Sans for a full week on your WIP, feel free to join. We'll probably create a post in a couple of days on our Coffee page, like a little update about how we're doing with our Comic Sans writing. So if you're not following us on Coffee, please go do so at coffee.com/the Mary Writer podcast, which, we've already shared the link, but there you go. But in the meantime, if you want to learn more about us, the podcast, and opportunities to be a guest on the show, don't forget to check out our website at themerrywriterpodcast.podbean.com. But now we'll turn it over to you guys. Do you have a media kit set up for your work? Let us know your answers in the comments so we can chat. Remember, we release a new episode every Wednesday. To ensure you don't miss it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your way out. As always, thanks for listening to the Mary Writer Podcast. We'll see you guys next week. This podcast is brought to you by Buying Books. We never have enough. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.